Hi cookie friends, welcome back to Lights Camera Cookies. Today we are making some super adorable Lucky Charms cookies. I made them for St. Patrick's Day, but quite honestly, do you need an excuse to make Lucky Charms cookies? I don't think so, so let's get right to making them. These are really great cookies to make for any level, but especially for a beginner. So I'm going to take you step by step on how I did this. So the first thing you're going to notice is after the cookies were baked, for this cookie, I wasn't quite confident to freehand this clover, so I took my edible ink markers, which I purchased off of Amazon. There's plenty of places you can get it, but they're edible ink markers, and I just drew that on with my yellow marker, and I knew that was going to give me the confidence to then pipe in the shamrock with this green color. All of my food coloring I get from Hobby Lobby. Why? Because there's a Hobby Lobby right by my house. It is just super easy to go there and restock. They do have really good colors. They're a good brand. They're called Sunny Side Up Bakery, and they're gel colors, so I do recommend them. So what we're doing here is you're going to notice that I am not going to allow any dry time in between the colors. Many times when you watch my videos or these real-time cookie decorating tutorials, I usually say, okay, I piped on this green and now I'm going to wait 30 minutes for that to crust over. No, in this case, we are going to go right in with our next color. And this technique is called wet on wet. So I am going to be piping the wet icing right next to the icing that didn't even dry yet. Why did I choose to do it for these cookies? You can do this for any number of reasons. Number one, because it's a little bit faster. You don't have to wait as long. Sometimes, I wait 24 hours for my cookies to dry before I put the next layer on them. So in this case, you don't have to do that, but I chose to do it because these are the marshmallows from Lucky Charms. They're all flat. There's nothing raised on like the actual marshmallow. There's nothing raised. I wanted this to look as authentic to the marshmallows that come right out of the cereal box, and that means they're gonna be flat. So I could have done this in any number of ways here. I could have I could have filled the entire little hat here first in my light green frosting, and then I could have gone on with that wet on wet technique and piped in the dark green shamrock, but I didn't want to do that. I was not super confident that I was going to get it right in the first shot. If I did mess up, it's really no big deal because you could just scrape all this icing right off and start again. But I decided, you know what? Let me pipe on the shamrock first, and then while that's still wet, I'm going to outline it in my light green, and then I'm going to just fill in all the rest. You're also going to see that I'm using plastic piping bags that I get off of Amazon. They're super cheap. They come in packs of 100. I'll have them linked in the description below. And I don't use tips. I always used to use those metal tips that you can find in like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something. And really, I just found them to be a little bit cumbersome. Cleaning them out was very annoying. This is easier. I can just get rid of the entire bag. I cut the end of the tip and it's a perfect round hole that I can make any size I want. If there's a clog at the end of the bag, you can kind of like massage it out, whereas with those metal tips, you have to take it out, like find the clog. I don't know, just a whole mess. So I enjoy this much more. Oh, and that tool right there is a scribe tool, and I use that to push the icing to meet that outline. I use it to pop bubbles. You can use a toothpick, you can use whatever you want, but those are called scribe tools. That one's just a fancy one. I was very excited when I found that. So when I piped on that light green icing, I realized that I kind of made my shamrock like a little bit misshapen. No big deal, because since this is wet on wet, I just said, you know what, let me go ahead and fix it. And I went right back in while everything is still wet here, and I'm like, let me just straighten out this clover and make it the shape that I want, and I'll just refill it again. So you can see if you made a mistake, no big deal at all, just go right back in and fix it. And I usually like to pipe, I always like think about this as like a printer motion, like just go back and forth and back and forth. Smooth that out a little bit. And I let it dry for 24 hours and it came out with a super cute cookie. Next up, we've got the horseshoe. So this horseshoe, I'm gonna speed up to 4 times its regular speed so you don't have to sit through the extremely long decorating. So that leprechaun hat that I did, that was real time. This is 4 times the speed. And you're always gonna see, I'm gonna outline the cookie with my icing, and then I'm gonna come right back in and I'm going to flood it. It's called flooding the cookie. So you're gonna outline it and then you're going to flood it. And I did a pretty good job there, so I didn't really need my scribe tool to come back in and smooth anything out. So that one's done. Horseshoe is done. All right, we've got this part. Just a quick tip, when I first made my pink icing, I made it too dark and I was like, oh my gosh, I just ruined it. No, you can get this really great white food coloring and you can dull it down a little bit. So that's a good tip. Always have some white food coloring on hand. And I get mine from Hobby Lobby as well. All right, we've got this pot of gold. So again, it was wet on wet. I came in with that yellow and I outlined the base of the pot, and then I guess, what is that? That's money, right? The orange part is like gold money, orange money? I don't know. It's what the marshmallow looks like, okay? This is what Mr. Lucky Charms did. This is how he made his pot of gold. And really simple. I sped this up to 4 times the speed so you don't have to sit through the whole thing. But when you use these tipless piping bags, the smaller you cut your hole, the less likely you are to have air bubbles. So that's just something else to think about. All right, what's next? Oh, me red balloons. Red is such an interesting color to work with. My tip for this is don't oversaturate your icing with red. If it's not red enough, let it sit overnight. And I'm pretty sure, I can almost guarantee it's gonna darken overnight. All food coloring, it darkens overnight in your icing, so don't worry too much if it's not that perfect red. Red is one of those colors that kind of gives a funny taste if you put too much food coloring in. So just be patient and wait overnight and it should darken. This blue, look at how pretty this blue is. I used some white food coloring in there to dull that blue and it came out so beautiful. I was really happy with how that moon came out. All right, now we've got another shamrock here. I used the same color green that I did for the middle of the very first cookie that I made, that shamrock hat. You're gonna see that I outline the cookie and then many times I like outline it again. So I make the first outline, then I do a thicker one, and then I go back in with that back and forth printer motion and I fill in the cookie. Use my scribe tool to push that to the end. All right, there we go. We've got a clover. What's next? All right, here's an example of me forgetting to record, and I scraped all the icing right off the cookie and I recorded it. So this is just really a way for me to show you that if you were to mess up on a cookie, just scrape the icing right off with like a butter knife. Scrape it off, nobody has to know, and then you start over again, which is exactly what I did here for the shooting star. This, guys, like, what is this? Is this a timepiece? Like, oh my gosh, what is it called? The thing, oh my gosh, somebody help me out. What is that called? With the sand, the timepiece and the sand. I cannot think of the name. Anyway, I did mess up on this. I got the shape wrong, and you saw that I just went right in with my scribe tool and I just scraped that icing right off. Nobody has to know that I did that. It's gone. So when you're making cookies, especially for the first time, be patient with yourself and know that there's always a way to fix things. There's always a way to fix things. All right, and our last one we have is the unicorn. I really liked making this one. So I got my white icing. And again, if you use white icing and it's not white enough, like if you put vanilla in there, like a brown vanilla, because you didn't have clear vanilla, you can always brighten that white back up with the white food coloring. And here's my blue, and while that unicorn head was still wet, I just came right in with the blue to start making the mane of the hair. And I was trying to make sure that I spaced it out properly because then the next color is purple. So I just filled in those gaps with the purple. This was the easiest unicorn I ever made. Guys, I really, really hope that you try out these cookies. These cookie cutters came from Amazon. They were pretty small. They weren't exactly what they said in the description. I'm going to leave 2 links in the description below of cookie cutter companies that I use. They're on Instagram, and I think they're the absolute greatest. So I would give those a look instead of going and buying right from Amazon. I know that sometimes Amazon is definitely easier to just go ahead and buy from, which is what I did in this case because I was running very low on time. And then when I got the cookie cutters, they were really, really small. And I knew I should have started earlier and ordered from the two names of the companies I'm going to leave in the description below. They're called Cut It Out Cutters and the Sweet Design Shop. And I really think they make super high quality cutters with a 3D printer. And I really, really enjoy buying from them. They have like really unusual, great, cute, adorable cutters. So that's who I recommend that you go to. Guys, cookie friends, I really hope that you enjoyed watching how these were made, and if you have never made cookies before, this is definitely the set to start with. There is no dry time, there is no real worry about is it absolutely perfect, because have you seen the Lucky Charms marshmallows? Those are not absolutely perfect. So usually I'm a perfectionist, and if you look at my other work, I'm really, really detailed oriented and I want to make sure everything is absolutely perfect. But even I gave myself some grace with these cookies and I just wanted to have fun and show you what it just looks like when you enjoy baking and you just have a really good time with them. I will say though that the worst part of these cookies were making all of the colors, but I have learned to not do everything in the same night. I'm not going to bake, I'm not going to make all the icing colors and then fill everything. I'm going to spread it out a little bit to just be a little bit kinder to myself. So I baked these cookies and then later that night said, you know what, let me just make all the colors, and I was patient with myself and I took the time and I enjoyed the process of coloring the icing. Usually icing coloring is one of those things where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. But I actually really enjoyed making the colors and I think it showed because I think the colors came out really great and vibrant and I was really happy with them. I hope you are too, and if you do try to make these, let me know. Go find us on Instagram, you can tag me. I would love to see what you make and I'd love to know if any of this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I will see you next time, cookie friends.